Today we will be reading a book by my least favorite author. Let's read Verity by Colleen Hoover. Now, Colleen Hoover, I am very clear about my feelings on Colleen Hoover. And those feelings are, I don't like her. She's weird. I don't like her writing. But that's just my opinion, and that's one of the disclaimers I want to make. That is just my opinion. If you like Colleen Hoover, that's amazing. I will say this video is probably not for you, and that's okay. We are all about having our own opinions on this channel, and if you can't do that in a normal way, go ahead and find somewhere else to comment. So, I wanted to read this because this is the book by her that looks the most promising. I have read It Ends With Us, which I would argue is her most popular. And maybe I'll read more, but I refuse to financially support Miss Colleen Hoover, and so I got this from a free little library. So it just happened that way. Maybe if I find it at Goodwill, I will read one of her other books. This should be a pretty quick read for me. I'm going to completely mark it up, and then I'll burn it. I'm just kidding. I won't burn it. I don't believe in burning books, but I don't know what I'll do with it because I will be completely marking this up. So, I will be sharing spoilers in this video. So if you do not want this book spoiled for you, go watch one of my other videos. C'est la vie. Really excited to read this, actually. So I will be giving a full breakdown of the plot, maybe chapter by chapter. I don't want this video to be too long, but this is my next read. Ending 2025 with, just absolute bangers. Let me just read the back for you guys. And I'm already fucking pissed off. Lowen Ashley spelled like Ashley, Leigh, already pissed off. Hate that. Moving along. I'm gonna be pretty harsh on this book. Sorry, I'm gonna try and not be biased. That doesn't work well for me. Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. Lowen arrives at the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Lowen doesn't expect is to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night her family was forever altered. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father. Oh, she has a kid? So she has a kid. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy began to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying could make it impossible for him to continue loving her. Sounds pretty good, and I've heard it is like a thriller. That doesn't really make it seem like it, though. So this was published in 2018. Yeah, the very first line I just saw is, "I hear the crack of his skull before the spattering of blood reaches me." So we're really starting off with just an absolute fucking banger. Okay, so I started Verity yesterday, and I gotta give Colleen Hoover this. It is a quick fucking read. I am already on page 142. It's like not that long of reading. Like, it's really flying by. I also just read Hamnet, so maybe that's misconstruing the data a little bit, because that one took a little bit longer just because of the kind of depth of it, I guess. But I'm not hating it as much as I thought. There's definitely some parts I'm like, what the fuck? And kind of the whole idea I don't really like. I don't know. I'll have to get more into it once I finish it. I think finishing it is really gonna tell me how I feel. So we'll have to see, but I might finish it tonight. We'll see. Hello, I finished Verity. You're getting fresh out of the shower, me, because I haven't had time to film this. So, hi, I'm fresh out of the shower. Ignore the weird part my hair is doing. You wouldn't have even noticed. Now I'm saying something and making it weird. So, I'm here to talk about Verity, and I believe I already said this, but this will be a full breakdown of the entire plot. So, if you don't want spoilers, go ahead, click off the video, find another one of mine. That being said, I wouldn't recommend this book. So if you just want to, skip past the pain and hear about it here, go right ahead. So chapter 1 starts off really strong with a man's blood getting spattered onto our main character, Lowen, her white shirt. Essentially this man steps into the street too early and he gets hit by a truck, and she hears the pop of his head as he goes under the tire. Okay? You learn very quickly in this book that this is only for a good attention grab in the first scene. That's the only reason. This has zero plot, and I'm not saying everything in a book has to be directly for plot, but it has to be for something. And the only thing that this was for shock factor. So yeah, go into it knowing that. You'll only hear about that for about 3 chapters. So whatever. This essentially turns into a meet cute, and you'll find out how. It's really disturbing. So you hear about that, and she just walks away and talks about how in New York City, people don't care, and they just this is everyday life to them. And you know what? I would like to call bullshit on that. I haven't been to New York City, full transparency. I'm pretty sure if someone's head explodes in the street, you're gonna look. Right? You know what I'm saying? Because there were I don't know. That's just such a weird idea to me. We don't hear much of her inner dialogue after she's just seen this man killed, and it's not in oh, she's in shock type of way. It's in she doesn't fucking care. She has zero empathy. And so then this man finds her, asks if she's okay, and he takes her to this coffee shop to clean up. She washes the blood off of her. They end up changing, he gives her his shirt. And then she finds out he's a meeting, whatever. And then he says his name is Jeremy, so we know he's the main character based off the description in the back of the book. He said he's seen worse, and she's like, "Oh, are you a doctor? What do you do? How have you seen worse?" And he was like, "Oh, I pulled my 8-year-old's body out of a lake 8 months ago." And again, that's one of those things that's very emotionally traumatic. And I'm not saying one would be worse than the other, but to completely write off seeing a man's head explode essentially it's bizarre to me. Didn't quite understand that. We also find out that Lowen's mom died a week before this book started. And don't worry, that will barely get brought up. So, if you were wondering, I actually forgot that even happened. She reveals she used to do morphine before hospice took it away. Once again, doesn't really get brought up. She does Xanax later in the book, but that's kind of it. So there's no withdrawals. There's no oh, I need morphine. There's nothing like that. It's kind of just they're trying. Colleen Hoover is trying to push shit onto this character that, and then forgets about it. That's what it feels like. And then chapter 2 starts, and her literary agent is her ex. They weren't together for too long, but then they had a sexual relationship for 2 years after that, which just stopped. Which, can we just talk about conflict of interest for a second? And she's like, "Oh, but he's a good agent." Once again, you would think that conflict would kind of lead somewhere. It doesn't. Oh my god, she's a loner, and her own mom is scared of her because she would sleepwalk. And this is a very weird plot point to me. It was not necessary, and also was like, it was very underbaked, and also just was not creepy. So there's that. Um, and we find out Jeremy is the man she has a meeting with. She's then goes on to talk about how she's glad her mom is dead. I mean, once again, we don't really dive into that, so just moving right along. I'm just about to give you a ton of information that, don't worry, you can forget in the next 2 seconds. She bounces back and forth between being fine and then like remembering the guy's head like popping, but it's not in like a natural, realistic way. Um, so it just felt like she'd be like fine, and then she just like would be like, oh, and then I think about, just what today's really bad because I saw a man die. That's not how I would describe my day if I witnessed that, but it's neither here nor there. I'm not Lowen. They put the offer down, which is basically they tell her, Verity, the author, super famous author, she's in the middle of the series. She cannot finish the book. They're looking for a ghostwriter to come. And they're like, hey, she read your books before she got, is unable to work on it. And she loved your work. And she, would want you to do this. It's a lot of money, whatever. Lowen says no because she's like, I'm not good enough and you're going to find a better writer than me. Not like that is so stupid to me. You're a stupid adult if you do that. Shit ton of money. What you desperately need, and turning it down because you think you're not good enough. I get insecurities. I get that. But then there's stupidity, and those are two very different things. So the daughter that he pulled out of the lake, that was Harper. You don't know their names yet, but I'm telling you. Chasten, her twin sister, died a couple months before that. Okay? So, just a lot of things going on. And he essentially just forces her hand and is like, no, you're gonna do this deal. And she just goes along with it. So that's how quickly Lowen loses her backbone. Then you move on to chapter 3. She's going to stay with him as part of the contract to go through all of Verity's notes about her book. And then Verity might have crashed her car on purpose. And that's how she got the injuries. I don't remember how we found that out. Probably not important. Moving on to chapter 4, she drives to Jeremy's. Okay, she describes the house, and we get more of a reaction of fear of this house than of her witnessing a man die. So, wonderful writing, just really good quality stuff, top of the barrel. We randomly find out Jeremy has a son because he's just staring through Lowen's car window. Fucking weirdo. His name is Crew. Is his name Crew? I don't know. I just guess that. Oh my god, moving back to chapter 3. My bad, guys. Chapter 3, when she's talking to Corey, who is her literary agent / ex, she asks him about his new girlfriend. And he's like, what? Like, what? You know about her? And she says, and I quote, I write suspense novels, Corey. Don't be so surprised that I know about your girlfriend. So, that's just the quality of writing we're getting. So, yeah. Moving right back, we were on chapter 4. We find out about Crew. I don't know if that's his name, so that's his name now. Jeremy shows her around the house, and then she meets Verity. She's fucking weirded out by Verity. And then Lowen goes downstairs, looking through the office. She finds Verity's autobiography. We skipped her reading part of it, and we learn how Jeremy and Verity met, and it's weird as fuck. It's just super unnatural, super weird. Bunch of weirdos, bunch of Tumblr stuff. Don't like it. Chapter 5, literally all all I wrote down is Jeremy and Lowen chat / sexual tension. And that's quite a few chapters of this book where just nothing happens randomly. Then we skip back to Verity's autobiography. We get a paragraph about her swallowing Jeremy's cum. Just a whole paragraph explaining how she swallowed it and then she goes and throws it up. And it was like this whole big thing because she like loves sex. And at the end of this chapter of her like autobiography, she says, "But there is no light where we're going. This is your final warning. Darkness ahead." Is that not the most Tumblr shit you've ever heard? It was really impossible, but don't worry, it gets better. Moving along to chapter 6, Verity is out on the patio and Lowen sees her through the office window. And then when she looks up again, Verity is staring at her. Fucking creep. And then, we know Verity can't move of her own accord, okay? But then very early on in chapter 6, she's staring at Lowen. So instantly you're like, this motherfucker can move. So that's a little weird. She decides to stay for 2 weeks at this house because her apartment fell through. And I think this whole book happens in those 2 weeks, but I couldn't be sure. The timeline does not make sense. So I think it happens in those 2 weeks. Oh, the little shit's name was Crew. Crew waves through the window, presumably at Verity. And then Lowen tweaks the fuck out. She sees the curtain move, but no one was in there. She goes up, and then, just a fan blowing the curtain. Then we skip to Verity's autobiography. Verity's pregnant, and she finds out she has twins. And she's like, God, I don't want to get fat, so I'm going to try and, have a miscarriage. Right. And she does everything she can. She even shoves a hanger up there. And I don't know if we find out here, but essentially it was Harper, I believe, who has a scar on her face, and they think that's because of the hanger. But obviously Jeremy doesn't know about this, whatever. Verity's just a horrible person. Just, hates these kids that aren't even born, and it's a whole thing. Chapter 7, Lowen locks the door because she sleepwalks and one time woke up with blood everywhere and a broken wrist. Did we explain that? Okay, so that does get explained later, but not the blood. The blood doesn't get explained, so keep that in mind. I actually don't know if I wrote it down. Essentially, she just jumps from her patio when she was sleepwalking and breaks her wrist. I don't know, maybe it was a nosebleed. I don't know if we ever learned that. Chapter 8, they keep bringing up that Verity writes in the villain's POV. They've brought it up 5 times now. Her books are so unique because she writes in the villain's POV. Not unique. And also, stop fucking bringing it up. And yes, it's important for later on, but I fear we would know from the first time you said that. And then there's this scenario where Lowen and Jeremy go to the store. And Jeremy sees some girls from around town. They'll never be brought up again. Don't worry. And there's no point to the scene, essentially. But this line, I have to read it for you. So this girl's she doesn't even say anything bad. So I don't really understand where this reaction came from. But Jeremy says, "Give my best to Sherman." She goes, "My husband's name is William." And he goes, "Sorry, get them confused." And she kind of stutters off, and they walk away. And Lowen goes, "Hey, who's Sherman?" And he goes, "The guy she fucks behind her husband's back." And Lowen goes, let me just read this. "Holy shit," I say, laughing. When we get to the register, I can't stop smiling. I don't know that I've ever seen that kind of epic burn in person. And this book was published. I don't know that I've ever seen that kind of epic burn in person. This woman's in her mid-30s, just so we're all on the same exact page. Makes me just want to just throw up. It's so bad. So then, chapter 9. Lowen hates Verity because of the autobiography, and it seems like for other reasons. One of them being she's very quickly become obsessed with Jeremy. Very quickly. And it's very fucking weird. Don't like it. Don't like it. So this is when I start to think, we're reading in the villain's POV. We're reading in the villain's POV, like Verity has, written in, because that's being shoved down our fucking throat. And I still think that's my theory, but not on purpose. Crew falls and cuts himself, and says, Mommy says I can't touch her knife. Her knife? Fucking weird. And then, the knife was, like, sitting next to her or something, and then they go up, and, the knife is gone. And then they bring up, Verity writing in the villain's POV again. I did not write every time that they did, but it was like upwards of 10 times that they brought this up. Then you go to Verity's autobiography. Verity has the twins, and she hates the kids, and that's all you get. Chapter 10, Harper has autism. So they say Asperger's, which actually, you don't use anymore. It is called level 1 autism. So, giving it a video game feel, kind of like that. They know their audience. And I don't really know that Harper had to have autism. I don't know. And it doesn't feel really inclusive. It feels like, oh, you don't know what you're writing about. But, okay, we'll take it. Jeremy is mad at Verity and thinks she hit the tree on purpose. Okay. Right. And then Lowen and Jeremy, there's a scene where they hug for just way too long, and there's some sexual tension going on there. You get sick of it really fucking fast. No mention of the opening scene, ever again, essentially. So, yeah, just a reminder, does not come back up. And then they almost kiss, Jeremy and Lowen, but Crew is there, and so they don't. Crew starts freaking out, not even directly because of the kiss, because Lowen was looking at photos of all of them, and he starts shoving all the photos, and he starts shoving them all back in the box, and get rid of them. It's really fucking weird, and actually that's never explained. So, chapter 11. We get Lowen being horny, and then, the cringiest scene ever. Let me go ahead and read that for you. Crew is telling jokes, and he says, your turn, to Lowen. And she said, oh God, I'm feeling pressure from a 5-year-old. Okay, let me think. A few seconds later, I snap my fingers. Oh, I've got one. What is it? Green, fuzzy, and if it fell out of a tree, it could kill you. Let's not talk about killing Lowen. That's crazy. That's not in the books. That's me saying that. Crew leans forward with his chin in his hands. I don't know. Fuzzy green piano. Crew doesn't laugh at my joke. Neither does Jeremy, at first. Then a few seconds later, Jeremy releases a burst of laughter that makes me smile. I don't get it, Crew says. Jeremy is still laughing, shaking his head. Crew looks up at Jeremy. How is that funny? Jeremy puts his arms around Crew. It's not, he says. It's funny because it's not funny. Crew looks at me. That's not how jokes are supposed to work. Valid point, Crew. I think Crew has autism. Okay, I have another one, I say. What's red and shaped like a bucket? Crew shrugs. A blue bucket painted red. And then Jeremy just thinks this is the funniest thing ever. And God, it's just horrible. It's horrible to witness. You hate it. And then there's tension between Lowen and Jeremy that just comes out of nowhere. which is all of their tension. And then Lowen decides she wants to read a chapter from Verity's autobiography about Jeremy having sex to cure her fantasies. She specifically opens it to find a sex scene between Verity and Jeremy. Fucking weird. So then we skip to Verity's autobiography. Verity shares that when the babies were newborn, she'd put earbuds in and sleep so that she wouldn't hear them cry, like when Jeremy was at work. And then when Jeremy would get home, she would like take care of them. And then Verity deceives Jeremy into having sex in just a very disturbing scene where he is not wanting to have sex, and then she starts touching him while he's sleeping. Oh yeah, because he also didn't want to have sex because the doctor didn't clear them to have sex yet because she just gave birth. Shocker. And yeah, she just starts it anyway, and they have sex, and it's really fucking weird. She talks a lot about how like she's kept her areas in pristine condition. It's just, I hate, even if you're trying to make this person a villain, I hate the whole vibe surrounding that. Chapter 12, Lowen puts on Jeremy's shirt. Weird. And then she touches herself imagining Jeremy, and she touches herself imagining writing him like she knows Verity did. Oh god, I think she's in love with fucking Verity. And then chapter 13, Lowen sleepwalks and wakes up in Verity's bed, and let me tell you, this is the creepiest scene in the whole book. Fucking hated that. Lowen makes a big old deal about her sleepwalking and how she's dangerous, and then Jeremy tucks her in and kisses her head. So now we're crossing some boundaries. Chapter 14, Jeremy has an idea to put a lock outside her door. And Lowen agrees. Dum, dum, dum. Right. Then we skip to Verity's auto. And Verity feels like she's finally loves one of her daughters, Chasten, and she doesn't love Harper. And it was because she had this dream or nightmare of Harper killing Chasten. And so she tries to kill Harper by shoving her fingers down her throat. She's a great mother. Chapter 15, Jeremy locks Lowen in her room, but first tells her that Verity never read her books. He did, so he's a little creeper too. And everyone in this book is just so fucking creepy. And then Verity's auto, Jeremy realizes that Verity only talked about Chasten, not Harper, and he gets pissed off. And then Verity lies about being pregnant to make him happy again. Good stuff. Good stuff. Chapter 16. Jeremy makes Sloane a cake because he finds out it's a birthday, and then it's her birthday, not a birthday. And then they almost fuck. But then Lowen sees Verity at the top of the stairs looking down at them. And then when they run up to the room, Verity is asleep. And Lowen asks Jeremy if she could be faking it, and he's like, that's not possible. But like the whole time you're like, yeah, it is. And it's really frustrating because there's no plot twist, there's no grand reveal. You'll see. Chapter 17, Jeremy ends up putting the lock on Verity's. Oh yeah, Jeremy puts a lock on Verity's door. Holy shit. He locks his wife in her fucking room. Oh, it's bad. Verity's autobiography, Chasten dies, and Verity thinks Harper did it. So Chasten dies because she ate peanuts, and she was severely allergic, and no one administered her EpiPen when she's sleeping over at a friend's house because all the girls fell asleep, and she blames Harper. Verity is upset about not having sex. She's more upset about that than her daughter dying. Right. Chapter 18. Lowen says nasty fucking things to Verity. She calls her she says I'm gonna fuck Jeremy in your bed, shit like that. It's nasty. And then her and Jeremy have sex, so, Chapter 19. They wake to find the door to Lowen's room, locked from the outside. That's why you don't put locks on the outside of your door, folks. He breaks through the window and everyone's asleep. So they're like, who did that? Then we skip to Verity's auto. I'm trying to speed run because I'm trying to not keep this too long for you guys. And also, there's just not that much to tell anymore. So we're in Verity's autobiography, and she kills Harper by turning over the canoe and tells Crew to hold his breath before she does it. Okay. Chapter 20. Jeremy calls a nursing home to put Verity in after Lowen suggests it. They have sex. And he comes inside her. She's not on the pill. He doesn't have a condom on. He just comes inside her. So chapter 21. Lowen asks Crew about the incident, and he says that Verity told him not to talk to Lowen. I hate creepy kids. By God. Then he cuts his gums on a knife. He clenches down a knife and cuts his gums. I don't know how that happens. And so then Lowen sets up a monitor in Verity's room while Jeremy and Crew go to the hospital. Then she reads, she's like, I need to finish Verity's auto. And in Verity's auto, Crew told Jeremy that Verity told him to hold his breath. So Jeremy's suspicious. And then she basically insinuates okay, if I can't get him, then I'll just drive my car into a tree. And you're like, oh, that's how she decided. Chapter 22. Okay, this part's also creepy. I hate baby monitors. I'm getting chills right now. Lowen looks at the baby monitor. Verity's on her hands and knees. It's creepy, whatever. Lowen pulls her out of bed, goes upstairs and is yanking her out of bed. I know you're faking it, blah, blah, blah. But Jeremy catches her. And he's like, you're a psycho. And she is, but, whatever. And she gives him the manuscript. Guys, we're almost done. Chapter 23. Jeremy reads the manuscript and then goes in and he's screaming at Verity. And he's like, if you don't fucking wake up, then I'm taking this whole thing to the cops, blah, blah, blah. And then she opens her eyes and she's like, sorry. And he fucking kills her. He fucking kills her. So he was gonna choke her with his hands, but then Lowen was like, no, do it this way so the police can't find you. So Lowen helped with the murder, and then 7 months later, they weren't caught because they said she died in her sleep, whatever. Lowen is pregnant with a girl, and I just hate this. And they go to an empty house, and Crew comes down and he's like, oh, these are all of mommy's pictures. She would put them in the floorboards. So Lowen's like, floorboards. So she goes up and she checks the floorboards. And there's a letter addressed to Jeremy. And, y'all, when I tell you, this is just the longest fucking letter to ever exist. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 pages long, at least in this book, and it's small print. So in the letter doesn't say a whole lot. It does, but it doesn't. It essentially says this whole autobiography was a practice for me to write from the villain's perspective. Right. And that's the grand reveal. Do you guys feel so satisfied or what? She wasn't actually bad. It was all for a writing exercise. Are y'all as pissed off as I am? What a stupid reveal. First, the fact that she's faking it, and then the fact that wasn't bad. So then we find out she was faking it because Jeremy was the one who crashed her car into the tree, because he had already known about the autobiography. And so he thought that she killed Harper. And so he crashed her car into the tree. So she knew she didn't keep faking dead. That that he would kill her. So what if we opened our mouths and just explained, right? So then Lowen goes on to say she's not going to tell Jeremy the truth because they don't know if it's the truth, and she doesn't think he can handle the mourning of that. So the book basically ends with them going off and living happily ever after, and you not knowing what the actual truth is. And not in like an open ending, satisfying type of way, in like a this book just pissed me the fuck off and I wasted my life type of way. This book was bad. This book was bad. Are we shocked? I hated this book. Let's ask the audience. It was just bad, guys, frankly. Like, it was so infuriating the entire time, and every character sucked, but not in a cool, morally gray type of way, in like a this is barely readable type of way. Like, and with Colleen Hoover, I've found that you don't know when Colleen Hoover is doing anything on purpose. And so that kind of takes away almost from the integrity of the book, because you don't know what's real, what's not, what she wanted, and you can't dive too deep into it because Colleen Hoover didn't dive too deep into it. So I fucking hated this book. It was 2 stars. Once again, here's the thing. I can appreciate, and this is what I want to make very clear, Colleen Hoover is getting people back into reading. That's the bottom line. And who am I to diss on that? People are reading, and that's important. And Colleen Hoover has gotten a lot of people into reading. Just know that there are better books out there. And ones that don't just put traumatic things to have traumatic things. I think that's really weird. You're only writing traumatic things to, I guess, have the shock factor. And that's kind of all of Colleen Hoover's books, is she needs to have something. And so she relies on trauma to make her books good. That's my perspective. And I know that might seem like a really shallow perspective, but that's just mine. So yeah, I hated this book. I gave it 2 stars. Will I read more by her? Possibly, because this was fun. I also read that in like less than a day, so it didn't like waste my time. And again, I was reading literature, so I'm fine with that. I was trying something new. I just ended up hating it. So once again, there's a lot of better books out there if you are looking for better books to read. But if you want to stick with Colleen Hoover, stick with Colleen Hoover. I don't care. I mean, look at my bookshelves. Not all those books are great. What is that? That's body oil. Right, ignore that. That was for Christmas gifts. I'm not weird. I'm not like Jeremy. So yeah, I guess that's all my thoughts. There's probably more I forgot to say, but yeah. Catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. And you know what? Peace out. Deuces.